Hello and welcome to another episode of Industry Celebrities. My name is Kimberly Scott. Industry Celebrities is a podcast where I interview industry professionals and or passions. Plus, they also share a little advice to their younger self that I always feel is very helpful to us all. If you want to tune in to other episodes, you can do so by going to thatkimberly.com/combo to choose which platform you prefer to listen to, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google, YouTube, and so on. And now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest today. I'd like to welcome Jon Umstead from PlanCanva. Hello, Jon, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Kimberly. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
The pleasure's all mine, and I appreciate you taking the time out today. So, Jon, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what industry you're in.
Sure. Thanks again. I appreciate that. So again, my name is Jon Umstead. I am a business consultant as well as an entrepreneur. So I've been doing independent consulting for a little over 5 years now after having spent some time in the corporate world, launched off on my own. And through that journey, I ended up writing a book that ultimately became sort of the functional requirements for a software that we call PlanCanva. And PlanCanva is all about really helping you define what success means to you, setting your long-term strategy, goals, objectives, how you're going to get there, as well as your shorter-term, more tactical business plans and how you're going to get there, but not just developing the plans, but how you actually track against them and make modifications as you move along.
That sounds very helpful, especially from one entrepreneur after another that had to write a business plan was very difficult for me. So how long has PlanCanva been in existence?
Well, the seed for it was kind of planted as I was writing the book. The book's called Business is Art. And the book was published 3 years ago. So I was thinking about it as I was finishing up the book. And as soon as that was published is when we really began conceptual design. We went through a couple of iterations of developing prototypes. Then we went into some beta test mode. We actually launched live commercially about a year ago, a little over a year ago. Mm-hmm. But fairly rapidly hit the brakes, did a massive overhaul of the user interface, massive overhaul of really our go-to-market strategy and our thinking there. And so even though this has been a journey that's been going on for a few years, I really look at us as having launched really just a few months ago.
That is, in the journey of an entrepreneur in their business, it is ever evolving. So I totally understand that part. I thought the software when I used it was very useful and helpful. So it's exciting to know that there's been an overhaul to it. So that just means it's even better than it was before. Where are you finding the most success with those that are using the software?
It's been a little bit of a mix. And that's part of why our go-to-market strategy has kind of evolved over time, because we've had different types of users. We've had, startups that are really truly in startup mode, as in they just have an idea that they want to vet out a little bit further before they invest a lot of time and money and energy into something.
That's very smart.
It's a very smart thing to do. And honestly, we weren't thinking of that market when we envisioned the software. So that kind of crept along. So we've had some people doing that. We've had others that are maybe a little bit beyond that point, but still you categorize as being in startup mode, looking for funding, either loans or investors, and just trying to do a better job of pitching a business that they already more or less have off the ground. But I think really one of the most interesting cases that we have ongoing right now is actually it's a software vendor that has about 3,500 or so clients or customers within a niche industry. Mm-hmm. And they're looking at, we've kind of maximized what we can do with the type of software we provide to this industry. What else can we do to continue to provide additional services to them and grow our own business while we're at it?
That's very smart.
Yeah, very, very smart. So it's a mature company that's probably in, I would say, $70 to $80 million in annual revenue range. Uh-huh. So they brought PlanCanva in first to really take a look at their own business strategy. So the entire executive team used it to put their thoughts together, And then they use that and use the tool then to facilitate a 3-day workshop to put their longer term strategies together. And now they're kind of in this execution mode where they've got the plan and are executing to it and making adjustments as they move along. And really kind of one of the thoughts in their minds right now, we're using this tool in-house to get our own things in order, but is this something we could perhaps white label and present to our clients as a software and a service and to expand our own business? So that's a very interesting case that's going on right now.
Well, I know that when I saw it, I thought to myself, well, I always say that I didn't learn anything in college because, I went to college for someone else, my mother. But I always said that, starting a business, I earned myself an MBA, but, because I did a business plan when I was in college, but I only did a portion of it. I didn't do the whole thing.
Right.
And so until you get into business or start something from scratch, you don't really know where to start when it comes to a business plan. So I thought, first thing, I was like, why aren't universities using this? This is awesome and should be something that each person, each student could utilize because it's real world questions, experience, everything, come together and it's all right there, one, online setting. So
yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned higher education because that is the other major pivot in our marketing strategy. Is to look at higher education. In fact, I've teamed up with a couple of PhDs from a university that's local to where I live, and we are developing a course that we're tentatively calling Entrepreneurial Leadership, and we're planting PlanCanva right in the center of it, and as the software that students would use to do homework assignments and case studies and things like that. But what's kind of cool is through this course development, I've pivoted a bit away from saying things like, okay, Joe and Jane student, now you develop a strategic plan. Okay, now you develop a business plan. Instead of using language like that, we're presenting it more like, okay, now it's time for you to consider this. Consider X, Y, and Z. Talk about that a little bit. Okay, now let's talk about this a little bit. And then at the end, say, oh, by the way, did you know that you just developed a business plan? Without ever saying, hey, go develop a business plan.
Yeah. It's less intimidating, it sounds like.
Yes,
and it walks them through the whole process that nobody ever walked me through. So, and for people to know that it's an evolution, that really you should update your business plan on a regular basis for the just in case purposes. And also to keep, your partners, your investors, whoever on the same page. So everybody's in agreement, you coming together to say, we all agree on this. Okay, cool. Check, just like you do board meetings and whatnot. So.
Yeah. Another interesting point you just raised. I just last night was meeting with a gentleman who's part of that investor community, and he's been a mentor to me over the years. So it was just time to check in with him and show him what I've been up to and talk about it. And so did the demo of PlanCanva. And one of his questions was, how do you get people to continue to use it beyond that? Okay, I've built a plan, because today what typically happens is we build a plan, we set the plan on the shelf after we've used it for whatever purpose we need it for, whether that's to get a loan or get an investor or just to launch a business. And then we set it on the shelf. We don't keep it going. And really where the value comes in with planning is in keeping it as a live, living document. You're constantly updating it on whatever schedule makes most sense to you. So that's sort of the institutional mental shift that we're really trying to promote is that, hey, don't just build a plan, manage a plan, execute the plan, and keep it going all the time. That's a tremendous shift in what we're taught. And that's probably our biggest struggle.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I can't express to people enough that when they come and they say, well, I have this idea, and I'm like, okay. Or they say, well, we've developed a business plan and we've never touched it again. So the idea phase, business plan, starting the business, going on the business 5 years later, a year later, you should be adjusting things because, everything's changing. Technology changes, the market changes. So your business plan should change or evolve, not change, but just evolve is the better word to use.
Yeah.
But good for you. I'm glad you're definitely seeing that and making some strides with, that software company and, higher education, because definitely higher education needs it if they're going to be pumping out these new entrepreneurs. And I feel like, students, they can see if they truly are up for that task of being a quote unquote entrepreneur. It's kind of funny. I haven't heard that word used so much in the past 2 years than I ever did when I started a business 15 years ago. That was a dirty word, it's like, oh, so you don't have a job. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Right.
now everybody's throwing that word around. So I'm like, okay. So I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with it, but it is, I feel like people need to know what they're getting into when they start a business. So
yeah.
you
Yeah.
definitely give that thought process in PlanCanva.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's funny, again, that you mentioned that, because I had a hard time referring to myself as an entrepreneur for a long time.
Yeah.
Same with the book. The book was published and I was an author. And it took me a long time to sort of accept that as part of my title, because it was just different. But
it's a humbling experience, I
right.
feel, that you have to get comfortable with.
Exactly.
I don't feel either one of us are very braggadocious of ourselves, so that makes it harder, but you just got to get comfortable with it.
Got to get comfortable. That's right. That's right. Own it.
Own it. So what would you say has been what you enjoy the most about what you're doing in this process?
Well, there's really two things. I mean, one of the big reasons I went into independent consulting in the first place was I just hit this point in my life where I'd had some professional success, but on the personal side, some really pretty tragic things had occurred. And it sent me into kind of a dark emotional place that I had to really work to get out of. And part of that process of getting out of it was this realization that what I wanted to do going forward was really help others. I want to help others to be successful, both personally and professionally. And so it made sense to take my business experience and education and utilize it in that fashion. That was really the onus behind consulting, behind the book, as well as behind PlanCanva. So there's that mission that's really core to what I do, is just a genuine desire to help people be more successful. And I think what I enjoy on top of that, though, is that I get the privilege of talking to, working with, getting to know people from all kinds of walks of life. People that are the same as me, people that are different than me. It's just, that is really rewarding. I really enjoy that, because how boring would life be, if we're all the same and we're just sticking to people that are just like us all the time.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy if I was surrounded by a bunch of people just like me. For more reasons than one. So, the standing question to my podcast is, what would you tell your younger self? So I have to ask that question to you. What would you tell your younger self?
I think first and foremost would be to not worry. Things tend to have a way of working out. They might not always work out the way you originally envisioned. But if you stick with it and you're flexible and patient, not too patient, things will work out. Just stay positive.
Yeah. Positive is absolutely. Worry is hard for anybody, I feel, especially at a young age. My mom still worries about stuff and she's almost 70, but it just takes practice. But I do believe in the positivity aspect. If you stay positive, you will worry less. I don't know what it's called in our brains, but when we're thinking positive, then we're not thinking obviously negative, and there's no worry, or there's less worry. So that is great advice to, stick to it, be patient, don't worry, and stay positive.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of research behind that it's not just our opinion. There's science to back it up, that, that positive attitude will result in more positive outcome than negative.
I'm going to use that term. There is research behind this.
That's right. There is.
Well, it's good to know. Now I have a reference when people ask me why I'm so positive. So tell everyone how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in, meeting with you or learning more about PlanCanva.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for asking. I'm pretty easy to find. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Jon Umstead is JonUmstead. I'm on Twitter at Jon Umstead. Or you can go to the website, plancanvas.net. That's .net. And learn a little bit about PlanCanvas, learn a little bit about consulting services that I offer, and contact me that way.
Awesome. Well, I would highly recommend the listeners doing so. Definitely when we met, I think it's been like 2 years ago, my mutual client, definitely enjoyed working with you and leading us down this path to being able to, actively use PlanCanvas and then, have you on my podcast and, just staying connected. You're definitely a great person to work with. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate that very much, and the feeling is mutual.
Thank you, Jon. And thank you again to everyone. Remember to hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel, iTunes channel, Anchor. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Instagram, you name it. And until next week, stay positive and keep growing. Thanks, Jon.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Have a great one.
You too.